Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to the last classic race review of this Corona break. It's been amazing watching all these kind of classic races all across the kind of year. Obviously, not all across the years because coverage from like 50s, 60s, 70s wasn't really...
It's a bit sketchy.
Yeah, it's a bit sketchy and it's not really there. But yeah, from the 80s to obviously the 2010s, it's been incredible. And the 2010s is where we go into our last classic race review. And that is the Canadian Grand Prix in 2011. I mean, I think we all knew who won that.
Oh, yeah.
And what a race that was.
Oh.
And I think it sets us up perfectly because rumours have it that, the early forecast from Austria is thunderstorms.
Radio forecasts are predicting thunderstorms in 7 days.
Surely. Hopefully it's true, isn't it? Because one thing we have found out from these classic race reviews is that wet races equal great races.
Great races, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. But this sets us up perfectly. What a race the Canadian Grand Prix was in 2011. So if you haven't seen the classic race review before, how we basically do things is we will give you the race classification results where everybody finished. Then me and Stephen will give our top 5 moments from the race. And in this race, it's pretty tough because there's a lot of moments. Yeah. And we also give our off-track moment before doing our driver of the day, and then we throw it back to you guys and you tell us what your kind of top 5 moments are and highlights from this classic race. So, should we jump straight into it, Stephen?
Let's jump straight into it.
Let's go. Okay, the winner of the Canadian Grand Prix was Jenson Button, Sebastian Vettel finishing in P2 and Mark Webber making it a double Red Bull podium. Obviously back in the days where Red Bull were the dominant force within Formula 1. Michael Schumacher just missing out on his first podium since his return to Formula 1 in 2010. Finishing P4. Vitaly Petrov in the Renault P5. Felipe Massa, P6, Kamui Kobayashi in P7, Jean Alguersuari finished in P8, Rubens Barrichello P9 and Sebastian Buemi rounding off the top 10. Nico Rosberg finished P11, Pedro De La Rosa in P12, Antonio Liuzzi in P13, Jerome D'Ambrosio in P14, Timo Glock P15, Jarno Trulli in P16, Narayan Karthikeyan in P17, Paul di Resta classified in a P18 but actually didn't finish the race, and then the retirees from the Canadian Grand Prix were, I say Canadian Grand Prix a lot, just repeat a lot, but the retirees were Pastor Maldonado, Nick Heidfeld, Adrian Sutil, Fernando Alonso, Heikki Kovalainen and Lewis Hamilton.
That's a lot of cars.
It is a lot of cars, especially for modern days to be retired, but exactly. It usually happens within wet races,
but there
doesn't
were
it?
24 cars on the grid, so yeah. More cars, more retirements, more carnage.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads us in perfectly to our top 5 points. That last retiree on the list, Lewis Hamilton. So, point number 5, Stephen, do you want to lead us into this?
Oh, the McLarens. It's the race started under safety car. Conditions were quite bad. Visibility poor. Through the last chicane, Lewis was on the back of Button, got a good exit and had the speed advantage down the pit straight. Went for the move on the outside of Button. Button didn't see him. Took the racing line and basically squeezed Lewis Hamilton out, and there was contact with Button's left rear, Lewis's front right.
Yep.
And Lewis retired from the suspension damage.
Yeah, I think Lewis then bashed into the wall and his kind of rear left was the kind of tyre that kind of gave in. But yeah, it was one of those ones where they'd kind of been happy with each other as teammates throughout this time, obviously becoming teammates at first in the start of the 2010 season. but yes, Lewis went for a move in challenging conditions. Jenson took the normal racing line. Didn't see Lewis there. Lewis was in the wall.
Yep.
And it was for a guy who's been renowned for being very good in the wet. He didn't get a chance to make his impact on this race that really turned out to be just a bit of a classic.
Yeah, it should be said he did have a tangle with Webber as well at the start. So it was Lewis's second tangle of the race. This time he couldn't get away from it.
Absolutely. Webber spun round, didn't he, at the start from that position. But on to point number 4, and that leads on to, Stephen mentioned that the race started under safety car. Well, there were a lot of safety cars in this race. There were so many. I think it was 6 in the end. I can't remember. It feels like that because there were 3 before the race got red flagged. Because the rain was so bad. Then they had a break for like half hour, something like that.
Then they had to start under safety car.
And then there were another couple safety cars, I think, after that. So, 6 safety cars in the wet. I mean, it was just mental. And that links in kind of quite nicely. Do you want to mention why it links in quite nicely to a point?
Martin Brundle. And Courtard, to be fair. Oh, the commentary. Nothing can beat Murray and Hunt, but there was some great moments in the commentary from Courtard and mine's gone blank. Brundle, I literally just said his name. He was not happy. It was like, why are we starting under safety car? Why is the safety car still out? Why is the safety car coming out?
I have a feeling that it's going to be in this lap. You said that last lap!
Courtard kept trying to calm Brundle down, like, I'm sure it's going to come in this lap. No, you said that last lap!
And it was like going, and now the safety car and guys are pitting. It's like, it's not fair! What about those guys who stayed on the wets? It's just not fair!
Oh, Brundle. And then there was the moment that Brundle was saying people can overtake at the first safety car line, which was just before the final chicane. Courtard completely ignored like the first 5 times Brundle said this. And then I think on one of the restarts, he's like, it doesn't matter if he's trying to overtake there. He has to wait until the start-finish line. And Brundle's like, no!
No, listen to me, David! And there was actually another funny point where David was like, I was actually doing some research while you were speaking there, so I actually don't know what you said. So it was in a race that was chaotic. It was some comical moments in the commentary box. But point number 3, Stephen.
And point number 3 was the good old days for some of these drivers. The battle for the podiums between Jenson, Button, Schumacher and Webber. It was the old boys fighting it out for what was second and third. Vettel was flying away at front. It was looking at those final 2 podium spots. They were following each other for a good 4 or 5 laps just in a train and going for the DRS dive. Schumacher defending and then overtaking Webber, making mistakes. Button just
taking advantage because he was just the quickest man out there.
And it was like a flashback almost, because you had all the young boys like Lewis, Vettel coming through the ranks, and it was just the 3 old boys.
It was just brilliant. I mean, we watched the Spanish Grand Prix from 1981 a couple of weeks ago and had like a 5-car train. And it's just when the cars are following each other so close, it just builds that excitement and, trying to find a way. And especially in that kind of wet conditions, because you go off the dry line and you just lose the kind of grip on the slicks. And Felipe Massa, early in the race, overtaking a back marker, kind of spun and went into a wall. And so, it was such kind of margins for error, and it was a tense and brilliant battle seeing these kind of, experienced drivers on the grid. Really kind of testament. Obviously, Schumacher had still a good 10 years on Webber and Button as well. And, but it was just kind of, it was brilliant to watch it. And that moves us on nicely to the second point, because sadly, Michael Schumacher came out the worst of those 3 and finishing P4. Still a brilliant result for Mercedes at that point, because it is easy to forget that Mercedes, when they came into the sport, weren't the dominant force that we've grown to become accustomed with over the past 6 years with them. And yeah, it is just kind of crazy to think he was so close to getting that first podium, and he didn't actually, I think, get the first podium back until his return until the following year at the European Grand Prix, which was another classic race for you with that podium of Alonso, Raikkonen and Schumacher, which was a great podium to witness. But he drove brilliant. There were some kind of great overtakes in there, taking advantage. There was a double overtake on kind of Massa and Kobayashi.
Yeah.
Schumacher's always been a master of driving in a rain. It was another masterclass from him, and it was a shame that the car just wasn't competitive enough with those Red Bulls and McLarens, especially with the track drying up. It definitely played more into the favour of kind of the Red Bull and superior McLarens that Button and Webber were driving. So finishing P4, but it was still a brilliant drive from the great Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, spot on. But highlight number 1, the comeback story of Jenson Button. He didn't help himself much in the race, but 6 pit stops, 1 drive-through penalty for speeding under safety car, and he's won the race. That shouldn't make sense.
No, the number of safety cars did help.
Yes.
In terms of bunching things up, that is for sure. But still, he was in Zen mode for because at large points of the race, whatever tyre option Jenson was on, he was significantly quicker than everybody else around him. And for large parts quicker than how Vettel lapped for most of the race. And, he had some brilliant overtakes in there, but had the clash with Hamilton, had the clash with Fernando Alonso. I think he had 2 punctures within the race.
He definitely had one that sent him to the back of the pack.
Then he pitted for intermediates and then had to pit again to go onto the full wets. And it was carnage. And the Canadian Grand Prix this year was just an absolute It kind of was an explosion of chaos of what the hell is going on. And Jenson winning this race kind of epitomises that.
Exactly, yeah.
And, to go think, early on in the race when he went back, Martin Brundle was talking about the guys at the front of the grid will be watching what Jenson's doing on time as a kind of test dummy for things, not realising that in 60 laps' time that he'd be going, Jenson Button has won the Canadian Grand Prix. It was just mental. And that last lap, it's like a last-minute goal in football, isn't it? If an overtake for the race lead happens on the last lap. And, I remember it vividly watching it at the time. The 4 of us were kind of here watching it, and we were just like, surely not. And then it's like, Vettel goes wide, Button goes through, we're like, yes, come on! Because Jenson's a likeable guy, and he was certainly, I think, one of our favourites during his time when he did race for McLaren. And it was just what a brilliant way and performance to encapsulate what was a great race. And one of the finest performances in the wet, definitely from Jenson Button there.
Quality.
Right. Off-track moment falls to me. And during these conditions, under safety car, it was difficult, or I don't actually think it was under safety car. I think the Renault just had so much traction through the corner that it was very quick. And Nick Heidfeld, in doing this, rammed into the back of Kamui Kobayashi. And he then damaged his front wing, actually. And we're just like, oh, we'll get round, and he'll get round, and he'll replace that. But he's then going along the straight, bang, front wing under the car, crashes out, and the debris left on the track causes a safety car again. And the safety car's going round, and then the marshal's there, and track's slippy. They're panicking. The cars have come round and they're still on the track and they're slipped over trying to go there. It just looked chaos. One of the stewards managed to get a bit and throw it off. The other one kind of ran across the track and kicked off another bit of debris. It was a little bit crazy from the marshals.
Yes, it wasn't the smoothest operation.
No.
I would say. The guy falling over. Oh.
Poor man. But he was okay. Just to say on that one, I suppose that could have been tricky.
Yeah. Because the cars were coming. To be fair, there's F1 cars coming around the corner. You're going to be panicking. But how the hell they've been told to go and clear the debris and cars are coming around that close? I don't know.
No.
I feel there should have been a bit of better communication. But yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as what we witnessed in some of the older races.
Yeah.
Where,
for modern F1.
Although I suppose still the kind of Valencia 2012 one, Sebastian Vettel's car retired, and cars, there was no yellow flag. Yeah. They were just kind of pushing it there. So yeah, safety, even in recent times, has got a lot better in these sort of situations to come with the marshals, certainly for that fact. But driver of the day, is there any doubt on this one, Stephen?
No, it's Jenson Button. Let's not build it up. He was at last place at one point, 6 pit stops, 1 drive-through penalty, and he came back. He was the fastest driver on the track at basically all times. Everything went against him, and he still came away with the race win.
It's incredible. It's one of those ones where if you said everything that happened to that car and then he won, you'd be like,
no.
Sorry? Are you sure? But it was just a brilliant drive from Jenson, and he has been, over the past couple of decades, one of the best drivers in those changeable conditions. And, he just knows the perfect time to be on the right tyre and get the best performance out of that tyre there. And it was just the finest example, and probably his best ever victory in Formula 1 for me.
Yeah.
Definitely on that front. It was just an absolutely incredible race. And what a way to kind of round off these classic race reviews before action resumes in Austria next week with the Canadian Grand Prix in 2011. It was just, what a race that was. But it's over to you guys now. Comment down below with what you kind of thought of that Canadian Grand Prix. What were your top 5 moments from it? Because it's just literally incredible. Even, I was saying to Stephen, we were watching, I know what's happening on the last lap, but I'm still really excited for it to happen. I'm still like, how does he do it? How, he's all over the back of Vettel, and bam, that pressure forces the mistake from Vettel. It was just brilliant to watch. It is a absolutely fantastic race. It's like a fine wine. It kind of builds through, and then just kind of this climax at the end of the race is just all worth the kind of 2 hours and 23 minutes run time of the race replay to watch. It was absolutely brilliant. But they're new around here. Haven't done so already. Obviously, recently passing 1,000 subscribers. Again, thank you so much for that, guys. We are really appreciative of reaching that milestone. It is absolutely incredible to have that support.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, less than a year. It's been brilliant. But if you're new around here and haven't done so already,
they can like, they can subscribe, and they can ding that bell.
Ding that bell. But that's it from us today, guys. I hope you're as excited as we are, because next week we will be live on Sunday for our race reaction of seeing what's going to unfold on the track in Austria. I can't wait. Cannot wait for F1 to be back. But for now, you F1 fans, keep racing.